It just turned, yeah.
Did it? Thank you. We're a little behind on our regular clock. We'll call the Village of Cache Creek Council meeting June 21st, 2021 to order. First order of business, the minutes of the committee of the whole held on June 7th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 7th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Councillor Coomber.
I don't know if we're going to quibble over grammar, but on page 5, under water advisory, the council directs staff to being drafting a water conservation bylaw. If it matters to anyone, that should be just reworded, that council directs staff to draft a water conservation bylaw. It's just me being picky.
Any further? All in favor? Carried unanimously. No delegations. There's a recommendation from Councillor Coomber, and the floor is yours, Councillor Coomber.
Okay, regarding our delegation, last week I met with Mrs. Mertens after the meeting, and we talked about the slough and its history and present challenges and what the Slough Society has been doing and what she wanted.
Should we have actually the motion, then we can have the discussion phase?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I will move that council recognize the ecological, historical, cultural, and recreational values of the part of the Thompson River in Ashcroft known as the Slough to the area's residents, and that council supports the Ashcroft Slough Society's efforts in working with the Ashcroft Terminal and CN Rail to find safe, legal, public access to the slough, and that staff forward this motion in a letter of support to the Ashcroft Slough Society with copies sent to the Ashcroft Terminal, CN Rail, MLA Jackie Taggart, and PNRD Area I Director Steve Rice.
Second.
Discussion. Go ahead.
And this is what the this is the motion that I came up with. I ran it past her. She was quite happy with it. It basically says that Cache Creek recognizes the slough and that it supports the society's efforts to work together with the terminal and CN Rail to find safe, legal public access to the slough.
Councillor Peters.
It's my personal feeling that this is an issue between the community group and the businesses, and I don't feel that it's the place of municipal government to be involved in that. Both parties have their very valid reasons for the arguments that they have, and I think we have to respect it.
Anything further from Councillor Defoe?
Well, I agree. It's important to recognize the ecological and historical culture and whatnot. However, I agree with Councillor Peters, the fact that I don't think this is a municipal as well. I think it has to deal with those companies, and they have to fight that one at this time.
Any further discussion? Councillor Coomber.
I'll just point out that the school board did pass a letter of support, and this council supports quite a few different groups around town and in other areas when they ask for our support or a letter.
I agree with Wendy.
Thank you. It's important to note that the Village of Ashcroft didn't support this motion, and the economic bubble is in their court. So should we put it to a vote if there's nothing further? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Economic Development. Councillor Peters and Councillor Kingberg.
I have nothing to report.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Budget Administrative Services.
I would move that council authorizes the signing of the Statement of Financial Information Approval, Schedule of Guarantee, and Indemnity Agreements for the year ended December 31st, 2020, Schedule of Payments to Suppliers of Goods and Services, and Schedule of Remuneration.
Second.
Discussion. Councillor Pittman.
Can we see some detail on the accounts receivable? I see it's quite high at 743,000.
That's at the year end. That's mostly because of the grants, the wastewater treatment plant, the claims that I submitted to the government, and the fact that I had to recognize the receivable, that money would have come the following year. And that's why we have. And it's actually smaller than it was the previous year.
Okay.
Can you quote page numbers when you're asking
Oh,
a question,
sorry.
please?
It's page 14. Oh, 29, sorry.
Yeah.
I noticed we had quite a large increase of, we were $90,000 over our budget, 2020, page 38. And the other question on there was the difference between 2019 to 2020 of $462,700 increase of office and operations. It's a little more detail on that.
That'd be flood.
But that
Response?
those are the financial statements that we already went through
BDO.
with the auditor.
Okay, so
Right now, I literally just prepared the statement of financial information, the guarantee and the details on the remuneration and suppliers, and the fact that we don't have debts. That's what I did this time. But we already went through the financial statements.
Yeah, these
Okay.
were already
What we done.
accepted and
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
well, because they have some more questions. On page 40, we've got under recreation and cultural services, swimming pool and recreation expenses of $111,000.
Page 40?
Page 40.
And what's the question?
What is that for? $111,136 expenditure under the swimming pool and recreation.
Well, there is the community hall, there is the gym, there is the info center. For the swimming pool, we have the chemicals that we still have to use in order to maintain the pool
Okay.
operational.
Right, but Parks and Community Hall have a separate line? Parks and Community Hall is at $56,967.
Yeah, but don't forget that the gym is recreation.
Okay,
So the community hall, it's literally when we do renting and for
Refinishing the floors, those kinds of things.
So the swimming pool and recreation is
It
the
has to
pool
do-
and the gym at the hall?
gym and everything that has to do with recreation. Or even the arena, when we rent out the arena for physical activities or for gatherings that are recreational in type, that is coded there.
Was it 2020 that we received the grant to do all the new gym equipment?
Actually, it was 2019,
Oh, okay.
but it went, because of COVID, it went through the next, no, actually, no, it wasn't.
Okay, I just wondered if that was part of
COVID,
it.
but we had an extension because we just didn't get in time to finish it.
So that would have been done as an expense,
Yeah.
but it would have been offset by a grant.
Yes.
Is my point,
Yes.
Okay, my other question's on page 41, where we've got the fire protection under our Schedule 3 for the COVID restart. We have fire protection of $85,393. What is that coverage for?
That's the equipment that we bought in order to qualify for WCB, yeah.
The breathing.
Yeah.
And On page 45, we also have Cache Creek Volunteer Fire Department of 28,500.
That was a grant that they received. And so what's happening when we received the grant, that was coded as a revenue. And when we paid out that grant, that donation to the association, that showed up as an expense.
Okay. And is that for part of their equipment as well?
No, that was a donation to the Firefighter Association.
So I noticed up on the top of this page for the year ended December 31st, 2021.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Small.
I will make the change, yeah.
And so we have the Coast Range concrete of 100,961.
Yeah.
Are these, is that what
Has to do with
flooding?
the floods, yeah.
Okay. So the associated fire safety, just below that, for 86,976?
That's the equipment that it's also under COVID. So this has to do with the suppliers, and the other one is how the grant
How
has
it-
been used.
Okay.
This is normal accounting practice.
Yes.
is it not?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And recontracting, what is that company?
That the contracting has to do with the wastewater treatment plant. That's a subcontractor of True Consulting.
Oh, okay. And IBX Civil
That's the floods.
Flood?
So I can tell you Coast Range, H&M Excavating, and IBEX are all flood related.
Okay.
And part of True as
And part
well,
of
I
True,
imagine.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
part of True?
Yeah. So that money was recouped.
And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will make a note to change the date, page 45.
Page 45.
Any further?
Just don't call us Clinton and I'm happy.
Yeah.
All in
was
favor of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. Policy and bylaw review, myself and Councillor Peters.
Just a quick update on our bylaw enforcement officer. They have hired someone. His name is Sam Seedall. He's eager to accept the job, but the apartment he hoped to rent fell through. So right now he's trying to find a place to live. And once that is settled, then he's ready and raring to go. He made a good impression when he came in and met staff here. They quite liked him. And so I don't want, there's some of this is private, so I can't read it all out. But Daniela said, Sam seems to be he's a very engaging individual with excellent people skills. We think he will be great at guiding residents to compliance as opposed to heavy-handed enforcement. And he's eager to learn all the aspects of bylaws, including drafting and presenting to council. So that'll be a help too as he travels around and it becomes aware of things. He can bring them to the attention of staff and council. So
Where does he come from?
I believe the Lower Mainland,
Okay.
but don't quote me on
No,
that. That one's just.
Thank you.
So they're hoping to have it established by mid-July, pending he finding a place to live. So that's exciting, I think.
Absolutely, thank you.
And it brings forth a big job that we have to do is, our first priority has to be a ticketing bylaw, which I'm in the process of trying to pull some off of other communities to see what they use, so that he has a guideline to work with. And then if you look at our bylaws, some of them are from like 1984 and earlier, so we need to do some updating of those too, but that will be a priority when we have a CAO.
They're classic.
They're classic, yeah. Archaic comes to mind.
They had bylaws in those days?
Thank
Yeah.
you. Staff report? Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Councillor DeVoe.
I would like to move that a letter of congratulations be sent to Mr. Cumming for his successful completion of his Level 1 operator certification.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Yeah, good job, Jordan.
Carried
Yeah.
unanimously. Village Services and Liaison, Councillor DeVoe and Councillor Coomber.
Nothing from me.
I have no report.
Protective Services, myself and Councillor Coomber.
I have no report.
I just, if I may ask a question of Christina, the Voyant Alert system, we talked about, you know, having utilities shortages like when the water goes out and stuff. If it happens after hours, though, you can't do it remotely. It has to be put onto the alert from here.
We are looking into
So it
kind
would
of
be a call out.
getting into remotely and
Okay.
sending out alerts.
'Cause
But
I
I
was
have to
just-
designate a few administrators
Yeah.
because not everyone should
Be able to do it.
have access. To
My question is
sending
just that if
alerts.
it's going to cost us overtime, that we look at prioritizing. So like,
Actually,
for example, the one the other night or a couple of weeks ago was at 11 o'clock at night and it was resolved
Yeah.
shortly after midnight.
yeah.
So to pay somebody 2 hours to come,
Mhm.
put it on the system, send it out is far more costly than having the little bit of water that would have been used in that period
Yeah,
of time.
no, I'm sure that it can be done remotely, and the process is really, really simple.
Okay.
So even if it's talking about overtime, that should be limited to 10 minutes,
But
maximum 15
isn't there a
minutes.
minimum 2 hour call out?
Well, people are not going to come here if it's remote.
Okay.
They can do it from their home.
Okay. Thank you. I
Thank
got
you.
thinking about that after, so.
Oh, and just because we were talking about protective services, I'm not sure if it qualifies for this chapter. We are WCB compliant now.
Yay.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Any further? Just like to congratulate Don Hilliard on his retirement of 32 years with the Cache Creek Volunteer Fire Department. And a thank you letter is going out to Mr. Hilliard and 32 years of community involvement in many different facets, but certainly in the fire department is a huge commitment, and we thank him for his service.
A number of those years, I believe, were a safety officer too, which is a pretty important role, so.
And our Graffiti Days parade, 70 plus cars, so hats off to our fire department for organizing that and putting it all together and making it 70 plus cars from all over, and certainly Mayor Blackwell from Clearwater participated, and we thank him for taking the time out of his busy schedule to be part of our celebration. And it was a nice day and a lot of cars. So it's good things to come. So thank you to the fire department for that as well. Intergovernmental relations, myself and Councillor Coomber. Do you have any, Councillor Coomber?
No, I have nothing, thanks.
Thompson Nicola Regional District. The new bylaw for corrugated cardboard is going to be coming into effect January 1st, 2022. And that will apply to City of Kamloops landfill, our privately owned landfill, and eco depots in the region. And anything over 10% of the capacity of the load will be subject to 50% of the tipping fee fine. And more to come, I would anticipate. Corrugated cardboard is currently on the bylaw and will be moving possibly towards other recyclables. Any questions on that aspect? And of course, Councillor Coomber.
They did an audit of Cache Creek recently, didn't they?
They did.
Did we get any results?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
So the audit that you're referring to is going and looking in people's garbage cans and dumping them in a TNRD waste truck, and on an off day that people weren't expecting garbage to be picked up, and certainly if they, it would have been nice to have even given the heads up, but in their defense, then it probably wouldn't be a random audit.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we fielded a few calls, and the issue of TNRD vehicles picking up our garbage was resolved, and the mystery was put to bed. Ashcroft BC Ambulance Services, we had a delegation, a couple of the top BC Ambulance directors in the province, and for our particular area, the dialogue that was carried on at the regional board level was that the community paramedic would remain unchanged, so we would still maintain our community paramedic. But we would be losing our unit chief at the Ashcroft ambulance station, and they will be going to, is that correct, Councillor?
I don't know, I'm just
sure I'm
shaking my
saying
head
too
in
bad.
disgust.
Oh, you're saying you should. Well, maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No.
But the unit,
ridiculous.
we're going to be losing our unit chief, and they're going to be going to an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I shouldn't say man, but a staffed shift at the station, which will have a 90-second response time. And then from that point, they're on call from wherever their residents are, and the response time is considerably greater. But I think the critical thing there's a couple of things that I got out of it. One is they're going into negotiations in October of this year with the province, and we may see some more changes in the near future. And secondly, the $2 per hour per diem that they get, because they're on a 3-day rotation, which means that from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 p.m. they get their regular wage, then they go home, get $2 per hour until they get called out, and then they would get a 4-hour minimum. But this goes on for a 3-day rotation. So I would think that burnout and a lot of other
And they're
things-
expected to be available,
Absolutely.
for $2 an hour. Like, I think that I'd like to make a motion that as a council, we write a letter to BC Ambulance or whomever the place would be to make the most effect. I personally have had 3 experiences with ambulances not being available and healthcare not being available, that in one particular case, if the people that were there and available, one a nurse, one a level 3 first aid attendant that happened to be in their front yard, the gentleman was seriously injured and an artery was involved, and they ended up driving him to Savona to meet an ambulance superintendent. And I do believe that that person could have lost their life if those people hadn't been available, if he'd been by himself. So it's so key. Without our hospital, we have to have our paramedics. We have to have them. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts
I
about
would
it.
also raise that we need more higher levels, especially in the rural communities,
Yeah.
because they have the skill and that some paramedics don't have.
Yeah.
And we
Like to
need
be able
those
to
to make it
administer
to the
pain meds
hospital.
or EpiPens even. Only certain paramedics
Are allowed.
are allowed to do that. And yeah, when you don't have health care as it is, it's so critical. They're so important to us. And I personally have already reached out, and I'm going to be contacting more people. But I think we all need to do that. We all need to lobby, because the more voices that are heard from rural BC, these decisions and even the union votes are done in urban areas where it doesn't matter to them. And rural BC, this is just one more case, sorry, I'm on my soapbox, one more case where rural BC has absolutely no say in things, but is the most adversely affected by it. Sorry.
That's a long
I'm
motion.
passionate about it, but.
But yeah, that's a very long motion.
Oh, yeah. A letter of support or of our concern, a letter of
Second.
concern.
And we're in the discussion phase.
Yeah. I kind of took it into discussion as part of the motion, sorry. My bad.
I would like to add to Councillor Peters' discussion that possibly this could be a UBCM dialogue with Minister Dix and the health minister. They are going to be going into negotiations, and now is the time to voice those concerns so they can bring these points to the bargaining table and allow the funding stream to be capable and supportive enough to engage the paramedics in our area anyway. I'm sure rural-wise BC in a capacity that they're going to service the community, not be frustrated and burned out. And if they haven't heard that message yet, it's time that they did. And I certainly support your motion. Is there anything further? All in favor? Thank you.
You can kind of word that however you want.
Check the-
I just kind of, I went off on my soapbox, but I'm a little passionate about it, but.
Well, the situation that you're describing to the people that are viewing this council chambers was fairly traumatic, and you see it firsthand. And certainly there was a number of people that did witness that, and it was very disconcerting to have BC Ambulance or the 911 call center say to you when you're on a 911 call that, sorry, there's no ambulances available, we don't know what the wait time is.
It's horrible.
And there's somebody, lack of better terms,
Bleeding to death.
bleeding to death.
Like I
Bleeding
say,
out in front of you.
It was just a happenstance that the right people happened to be on the front lawn when it happened. So,
Very concerning.
I
Mr.
al-
Dix, very
yeah.
concerning.
I also sat with an elderly gentleman at Husky a number of years, and this is not anything new, a number of years ago, who had broken his hip, and he was in the sun on the concrete. We weren't allowed to move him, and it took 2.5 hours for the ambulance to come. So,
Landfill Advisory Committee, myself and Councillor Coomber. No meeting, no report.
Nope, nothing has come up lately.
Emergency Management Committee, Councillor DePaul and Councillor Peter.
no meeting, no report. Thank goodness.
Information correspondence. Nothing. New business.
Sorry, I don't know when I should have brought it up, but I would also like to see, in our last meeting, I guess it should have been done under business, but from the minutes. In our last meeting, we talked about a bylaw, a water conservation bylaw that will take some time to, even though we have one that's well into where it needs to be, it's going to take a while for it to go, but I would like to see a letter going out to the public. Lost my notes. Just asking them to conserve water, perhaps odd number houses on odd number days, even number houses on even number days, water between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Hand watering of vegetables and flower gardens permitted but not lawns, and program underground sprinklers from midnight to 6 a.m. where possible. And my concern is that we are facing drought conditions and we're already seeing the impact of wildfires in our area. And I think that water conservation is key because we have to make sure we have adequate supplies for fire suppression if it's needed.
Without a bylaw, all we can do are make suggestions.
Yeah, just a letter asking people to cooperate
Thank you. You want to make that
as a motion.
If
Sure.
you wish, that is something you can do. I think it's fairly straightforward,
Yeah.
but a motion would be
Okay.
okay.
I move that we ask staff to send a letter to the residents asking for water conservation in the interest of safety with some suggested times and
Second.
Any further discussion?
details.
All in favor? Carried unanimously. Questions from the public? No? Questions from? Have a motion?
We're not doing things right.
Have a motion move into close?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.